Easter was supposed to be a day of family, love, and memories. But for me, it became the day my entire world silently collapsed in front of everyone I trusted the most. I still remember standing in my grandmother's house that morning. Everything looked exactly the same as it always did. The soft light coming through the curtains, the smell of fresh flowers in the hallway, and the old wooden dining table where generations of our family had gathered. But something felt different, like the house itself was holding its breath. My grandmother had passed away just weeks before that Easter dinner. Her absence was still fresh, still painful, like an open wound no one wanted to touch. She was the heart of our family. The only person who made me feel truly seen and understood. I used to believe that as long as she was there, nothing in our family could ever fall apart. But I was wrong. That Easter, my parents decided to host a family dinner at her house. Everyone came dressed nicely, smiling softly, pretending like life was normal again. But I could feel it in my chest, something was off. My father was unusually quiet. My mother kept adjusting her jewelry, avoiding eye contact with me. Even my brother wasn't speaking much. It felt like everyone knew something I didn't. We all sat around the same dining table my grandmother once ruled with warmth and laughter. For a few moments, I tried to convince myself it was just grief making me paranoid. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe everyone was just emotionally tired. But then dinner ended. My father stood up slowly, tapped his glass, and smiled in a way that didn't feel real. "There's something important we need to talk about," he said. The room went silent instantly. My heart dropped. And in that moment, I had no idea that the next few words he was about to speak would destroy everything I believed about my family. My father cleared his throat and looked around the table like he was in control of everything. "Your grandmother's estate has been settled," he said calmly. I frowned immediately. "Settled?" I repeated softly. My mother nodded beside him, as if agreeing with something rehearsed. "Yes," she said. "Everything has been transferred under our responsibility." I felt my stomach tighten. "Transferred to who?" I asked. My father finally looked at me. "To us." For a moment, I didn't even understand what he meant. It didn't make sense. My grandmother had always talked about fairness. About dividing everything equally. About protecting the grandchildren. So I asked the only question that mattered. "Can I see the will?" The room went completely silent. My father's expression changed slightly. "There's no need for that," he said firmly. That was the first time I felt something deeply wrong. Because if everything was normal, they would have simply shown me the documents. But instead, they refused. And that refusal stayed in my mind like a warning I couldn't ignore. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying my grandmother's voice in my memory. She used to hold my hand and say, "Everything I built will protect you when I'm gone." I thought she meant emotionally. But now I wasn't sure. The next morning, I went back to my parents and asked again. Same answer. "It's already settled." No explanation. No proof. Just silence. And that silence slowly turned into suspicion. Then something hit my memory. 3 weeks before my grandmother died, she had called me into her room. She looked weak, but her eyes were sharp. "If anything feels wrong after I'm gone," she said, "call Mr. Whitmore. Don't trust confusion. Trust truth." At that time, I didn't understand what she meant. But now, I did. That night, I searched his number and called him. My hands were shaking. A calm voice answered. I introduced myself. There was a long pause. Then he said something that froze my entire body. "I was expecting your call." And in that moment, I realized everything I had been told might be a lie. 2 days later, I met the attorney. He opened a thick file in front of me without saying much. And what I saw inside shattered everything. My grandmother's real will was completely different from what my parents had described. Everything was clearly documented. Fair distribution. Equal rights for all grandchildren. Legal signatures. Witness approvals. Nothing hidden. There was no confusion. Only truth. The attorney explained that my parents had deliberately withheld the real documents and presented a controlled version of the estate during the family gathering. They thought no one would question them. But they were wrong. Because my grandmother had already planned for this possibility. She had made sure everything was legally protected and accessible only through proper verification. Within weeks, legal actions began. The false control collapsed piece by piece. Documents were verified. Transfers were reversed. The truth reached every member of the family. And for the first time, the power my parents thought they had disappeared completely. There was no dramatic revenge from my side. No shouting. No revenge plan. Just truth, slowly correcting everything. But the real consequence was not legal. It was emotional. Because once trust breaks inside a family, it never fully returns. Today, I still remember that Easter dinner. The smiles. The silence. The hidden lies. And I realized something I will never forget. Sometimes betrayal doesn't come from strangers. It comes from the people who sit right beside you at the table. And sometimes justice doesn't need noise. It only needs truth to come back alive.